Hello and welcome back to PA Chalk Up. I'm your host Manny, and today we have Tucker. How we doing?
Great, Coach Manny. How you doing today?
I'm good. Obviously we've kind of followed each other for a little while, so I kind of know your setting and what you've been up to. But for the people listening in, if you give us a little breakdown on how you got to strength and conditioning and kind of where you are now and what you're doing.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, huge fan of the show. How it started off was I did my undergrad at Western Connecticut State University. That's where I played football for 4 years. Loved the weight room. I was part of the 6 a.m. crew, and kind of our 6 a.m. crew was, our D line coach opening up the door for us, giving us a program, and saying let's go and let's go do it. So after that, I was kind of you know rounding up on my undergrad, and I always wanted to become a gym teacher, physical education teacher, football coach at a high school setting. It's what my dad did, and I've always loved that and loved the process of that. So, kind of got some advice when I was at the end of my undergrad that hey, it's going to be more schooling, it's going to be more time on your hands to get that teaching certificate. So I said, all right, let's see what else there is. And then I contacted a bunch of my friends. Hey, what do you think? And they said, why don't you try strength and conditioning? And I said, okay, I don't know what it's about. It's like, and then it's like, everyone that you have on your podcast, like I didn't know it was a career. Like it's a career of training athletes in a weight room. So got opened up to that. Right when I graduated that summer was when I went down to Yale, and that's where I met our dear friend Tom Newman. And I was there for the summertime, and I was working there for a couple months, and it was awesome. The athletes at Yale, both football and lacrosse, were amazing. It was a great time to be at Yale too, them beating Harvard, them winning the Ivy League outright for the first time in a while for football, them winning the national championship in lacrosse, which no one said would ever get done, was from all of us kind of training our athletes. And it was a great environment to be around all these great coaches that I still keep in touch with. So that really opened up the doors of like, I really want to do this. So then at the end, Coach, Tom Newman was like, hey, you want to work at UNLV? And I was like, yeah, who wouldn't? So I worked with the football team at UNLV after that. From there, I did another internship, and that's following spring at the University of Connecticut, UConn, on the Olympic side. Then I went to CCSU in the summer. That fall, I was at East Tennessee State with the football team. After 5 internships, I finally got a graduate assistant position at Central Methodist University in Missouri. So it took me a while to get to that point of trying to be full time or getting paid to do what we love to do. And after that, I was there for a year. Some coaches left, and then I became the head coach as a GA. So I was a head strength coach while getting my master's done, making $500 a month, coaching up all these teams by myself. So that was 2020, and then 3 months later, the pandemic hit, and that was probably I might be the only person in the world that was kind of thankful for the pandemic because I was drinking water out of a fire hose in Missouri. I didn't know what was going on, being my first time as a head strength coach with all these teams and so much on my plate that was my chance to breathe, and so I was kind of thankful for that moment. And then I was there for another year and a half after that and decided to come back home. I missed out on a lot of weddings, family things like that. So came back home and I worked at a prep school, St. Thomas More School in Connecticut, where I'm from. And then I was there for another year and a half, and then decided to get back to college. And being the Division III football player that I am, I wanted to get back to the Division III setting. And now I've been at Westfield State University for the last 3 going on 4 years. So it's been a wild ride, and uh, there's not a one clear path to the top, and everyone has their own kind of way to get where they want to get. But yeah, it's been a fun ride, and it's been a fun ride, and I'm going to continue on this path for a while.
So there's a couple of things that obviously go into this, and I kind of want to go back to them in the next couple questions. But with everything that you've done, obviously you've had quite a lot of experience in the sense of like different places, different atmospheres and environments and levels. What's something that still continues to like fire you up to do this? We had some technical difficulties, but the question essentially was with all the different experiences and levels, what's something that still like fires you up to keep going and to keep pushing the needle forward? Here's a quick word from our sponsor, TeamBuilder. I've personally been using TeamBuilder since 2022, and it's genuinely changed how I run primitive athletics. Writing programs, delivering them to the clients and athletes, tracking their progress, and it all lives in one place. My clients get their sessions on their phones. I see their progress, I get messages from them, and we are able to stay in constant contact and be able to track every single metric that I need. I spend less time on admin and more time actually coaching. Check out teambuilder.com, and if you use promo code PACHUCKUP all together, you get 30-day free trial and you get access to the AMS system.
Yeah, I think no matter where you're at, I think there's always gotta be that fire and that passion, no matter if it's me with 18 teams and I got the football team coming in, and then the next hour is the women's golf team. Like, it's gonna have to be, whatever our standards are is we're gonna have to follow those standards, but it's either that or if I'm going into the weight room in Alabama, like, it's gotta be that same attention to detail. It's gotta be that same fire no matter where you go. That's kind of our MO as strength coaches as always. But me personally, it's always just been, about giving back. Like, it's something that these athletes need. It's not like, "Oh, I gotta go in and train this team." No, these people need us at this time. They need this development to grow into a better student athlete in their ability to perform out on the field or on the court.
Yeah, a couple questions that I've been asked recently, and it's becoming a bit more of a conversation that I'm enjoying having. Is like, so D3 and the D1 and the NIL are kind of taking a place in sport now, where instead of going straight to high school, they are looking at like D2, D3, see who's sort of playing well in these divisions. And again, D3 obviously doesn't have money, as you mentioned. So, in a sense of like having a good quality coach becomes important, because like now they're stepping up to D1, where it's just a different level. How have you seen that sort of play out, in a sense of having the basic preparation at D3, D2 to then step up to D1?
Yeah, so I would say like the good problem is I don't have that problem at where I'm at of, the transfer portal, NIL. We don't have to worry about a lot of that stuff. Some kids, look into it and do the old personal NIL and try and get their own money that way, but it really doesn't bother us and no one's really breaking any rules, so we're not really looking at it too deeply. In regards to training, the biggest thing I hear from Division One coaches, especially in the basketball setting, is they maybe retain two people from their roster out of their second team, and I retained our whole roster, so and I got everyone coming back. I got one kid who's a grad, and he's gonna be a grad transfer somewhere else on our men's basketball team. So I don't really get that problem. So I think the good thing about being a Division three strength coach is we're training and we're training for your 4 years. If you're good enough to go, go. So one of my good friends, a WestCon graduate football player, he's at WestCon coaching football, and they just had a player go from D3 to D1 to Coastal Carolina. So that's something that's a negative for them, saying, "Hey, we're losing this kid. They're stealing him. They're poaching our guy." But with anything in life, you could turn that into a positive now. Hey, any D2, D1 guys, you want to make it back up and you fell down, come on down, get developed for a year and, flourish in our program and then go back up. So there's always that ability to go back up, but there has to be some type of training. There's a reason why you're back down here, right? So you might need to get back in that way. You might need to get back in that football field. You might need to get back into that playbook to be able to thrive at this level and then get yourself back up there because you wouldn't have got a scholarship if you didn't have the ability or the size or the intangible. So there's a reason why you were there in the first place. So let's get you back up there. Let us be that trampoline to get you back up.
Yeah, there's there's something I know about our dear friend Thomas Newman, and it's his ability to put pressure on people to keep the weight room moving.
Oh yeah.
And you kind of said something that I kind of want you to dive a little bit deeper into, and it's obviously if you've got football guys coming in, and then you've got like female golf coming in, they're requiring two very different things. How are you changing the weight room to prepare for each or any other different sport that's coming in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, he did a great job at that, and that's why, like you said before, I did all these stops. Well, the main purpose was, like, I don't wanna be a one-trick pony just being a football guy, and then if you're just a football guy applying to other jobs, people don't like to see that you just have been a football strength coach. They wanna see you're more well-rounded. You coach a soccer team, you coach a different team that you know to how to train them and how to program for them. The best way to answer that question is that the standards are the standards and they stay the same. In that Yale weight room, our standards were the standards. And that was a great first internship because when we were out there, we had our own racks, we had our own rack assignments, and I had four athletes that were in my rack. I had the defensive backs, so being my first internship, if you know defensive backs, you know how they act, you know how they are. They didn't love the weight room. So it's almost, trying to convince them that we love doing this stuff and there's a reason why you're here. But outside of that, it's how is your rack when you leave? So your rack assignment is all the attachments set up is the turf in front of your area. It was called the turf was blue. It wasn't blue. We were hand picking. We wouldn't get a vacuum. We were hand picking. So that's just like the pride you take in your weight room, and that's still what we carry with us today. And that's what I still carry with me. I don't make my interns clean. You could ask my interns; they don't clean. That you're in here to coach and you're in here to work. I'll clean because I'll never want to lose that trait of taking pride in my own weight room. To get back to your question of how those standards came to me today is you're gonna have to meet where you are what we expect that day. So, even if it's a football team or the golf team, we're wearing Westfield stuff, that's number 1, we're on time, that's number 2, and how I run things in our weight room, everything kinda starts 10 minutes of the hour, so if your team's at 4, at 3:50, that's when you started your warm-up. So if you're late to 3:50, so if we consider that early. If you're late to 3:50, that's still considered late for us. So, being on time, wearing the right dress, wearing the right attire is the 2 main things first, and then after that, it's just attitude at the door, like, how are you feeling today? What's your stress? Are you being receptive to any type of training? Do you have that positive atmosphere or attitude that we're always gonna kinda that's what we'll get out of them when we coach them, and we don't need to ask them, "Hey, yeah, how's your attitude today?" We're not gonna get that, right? So, that's gonna be our standards for every single team. Now, coaching that team football-wise, football, that's a different beast, right? So, it's gonna be a lot of more kind of more direct. It's gonna be more of coaching them up, saying their name, getting into them a little bit, lighting that fire, kinda how their football coaches do, and that's what they're used to. Rather than the golf team, we're teaching the movements, and it's kind of my chance to almost like I wouldn't say, like, breathe again, but it's my chance to really tone it back and be like, "These people are at a different training age than my football team is." Everyone's football team is gonna have a high training age. Kids have in middle school are benching right now. They know how to lift weights. They know what a barbell is. They know what a weight is, where my golf team, we're just showing them the movements and we're getting something out of this to carry over to the golf course. And my women's golf team, they're a great time. Like they're awesome. I love kind of just it, hate to say hanging out with them, but we're just talking the whole time. It's more of that personal trainer. We don't have 10 girls on the team, so it's more of we're putting a face to a name. We're talking to them through the movements. We're asking them about their day. Where football, it's like I'm not worried about how your day's going. I want to see 500 pounds move today. So it's going to be that fire. So it's going to be a little different, but our standards are going to be the same. When you walk in the doors, this is what I need from you. And that's just kind of our environment that we create here at Westfield State.
How did you start the conversation? How did you build your standards and expectations? I'll give you a little context. I was having this conversation with a parent because I've started a group for 7 to 11 year olds, which like 4 year olds in the weight room is a bit different, right?
I couldn't imagine.
But I've always said this, like strength and conditioning can happen as soon as you're out the womb, right? You're trying to control your neck,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
press
Yep.
up, you're rolling. Like that's how I see strength. Like it starts pretty early on. So like people have been asking me like, what do you do with them? And it's like, can you act like a snake? Can you crawl? Can you jump like a frog? Can you hop? can you jump like a kangaroo? Can you like it's just like it's we're just animal movements because I
Mhm.
relate to that. But prior to this, I sit them down and I tell them, "Look, all we need to do for from that age is just listen to me. That's all I'm focused about. If your movement looks terrible, I can pick that as we go. Like that's not a big deal. But like, can you just do what I asked?" So the parent I was speaking to was like, "And you say this to them?" I was like, "Yeah, like I have expectations of them, and I'll ask them if you have any questions or if you want anything from me, you come up and tell me. That's their expectations for me." So it's like it's always this thing where as coaches to be effective, like there's got to be that standards and expectations. Like there has to be a way for us to work together. So I'm always curious on coaches, like how do you set up those standards and expectations, and how do you? Because again, they don't mean anything if you don't abide by them.
Correct. Yeah, no, that's and to tag onto that, you should see, my athletes. We still do those hops. We do those crawls. Like it's elementary movement that, we lose over time, but we still need it. Why do people still do layup lines? They've been doing layup lines since they've been a kid. But every basketball game you go to, watch the Knicks tonight. They're gonna do layup lines, right? But everyone needs to know the fundamentals. Everyone needs to master the basics. To answer your question, how do you develop that? Is I call that people want to call it culture, and I'll call it buy-in. It's getting to know the athletes, it's learning them, knowing their name, knowing where they're from, kinda learning who they are first, not treating them as a number, not treating them as a, "Hey, I need you to squat 500 pounds because it's gonna look good on our, end of the year, trajectory numbers for football," or whatever it might be, like, it's all about creating that culture and that buy-in, with your student athletes, so talk like I said, we're having these conversations with our student athletes. That's totally normal, and that's totally fine. It's not gonna be yelling and screaming the whole time, you have to get a chance to get out of your office, get out of your weight room, and get to know these student athletes, and without that, those standards mean nothing, honestly, so if you're, just expect, "Hey, I'm the coach, you show up, you do what I say, and then you leave after the hour," it's not going to be a great relationship, and it's not going to be a good environment for people to grow in, right? We're trying to create an environment for people to get bigger, faster, and stronger. It can't be that way in a negative atmosphere of me talking down and me pointing at you, and it's going to be like that relationship. No one's going to like that. And then also we have a lot of rules in Division 3 where off season wise, it's optional. They don't need to show up. So it's even harder on, in the Division 3 eyes as a strength coach of we gotta even create a better environment because in the off season, I can't report attendance to their coach. So I have to show them that this is the place to be. This is where you ought to be in the off season. All your teammates are gonna be here. You're gonna get better at your sport, getting into your off season training or your off season, if it's, for football, you have your spring ball to get you ready for that because you're gonna have practices soon, so I gotta get you ready for that, so it's really all the buy-in, all the background of seeing them in the hallway, like we talked about before here, going to their practice, going to their games, supporting them, and if we have a kid on a football team right now that was in the play, so a bunch of guys went out to go see him. Intramurals at our school is huge, so they'll kind of film intramurals and post it online, or they'll be watching it in person. So they'll always support each other, and I'm always supporting them. So without that, there's not gonna be a on time. They're gonna say, "Okay, I'm not on time. What are you gonna do?" So it's being a person to them first, and that's kind of how I always kind of my main thing in life is treat people as people, not as a number or I'm better than you. It's never that. It's, we're equals, we're gonna be the same and don't treat anybody kind of lesser than you. And if you do that and have that mindset, then you'll be a pretty good coach and you'll be able to coach at any level.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point to bring up, and it's again it goes back to one. I know a little bit of your lineage, so I know the Thomas Newman in there,
Mhm.
but it's also developed through your character and how you present this performance package. And I think what's important to highlight here is in D3, it doesn't matter if they don't go in. Like they'll play regardless. but like there's still that thing, that importance that no, let's still fucking attack it. Like we're yes, it doesn't matter, but it fucking matters. Like if you're wanting to be an athlete, you want to be an athlete. So like how was that sort of coming in and managing that and then establishing this culture like it matters regardless of what division we're in?
Yeah, so we're pretty successful in, you know, sports in our conference. We have something called the Smith Cup. At the end of the year, we calculate how much wins we get playing teams in our own conference, so head to head in our own conference, and we've won it 6 times in the last 6 years. So it's really good for, we got a really athletic school, but I've only been here for 3.5 of those years. So they've had success before I even got here. So trying to convince somebody that they need to get better at their sport before you even got there is kind of a tough conversation for people to have, so it's like, I got to get you better, but you're already winning the conference. You're already going to the NCAAs every single year. So getting that, trying to get through to those types of athletes was very difficult in the beginning, so I finally got, I hate not going to say get rid, but they graduated. All the student athletes graduated that, that kind of had those building blocks in the beginning of, hey, this is how we get it done. Now I've had my first class of, this is gonna be my first class graduating of, I've had this since they've been a freshman. So they know me, and it's gonna be a long relationship for us for 4 years. So that was, it's great to see this next year. But everyone that we had in the past, it was just kind of an uphill battle at all times of like, hey, you got to get better. And it's like, they just won't show up. So, but like you're saying, there always has to be that fire because at the end of the day, yes, we're winning, but you know, you wouldn't know Westfield State if it wasn't for me. Like that's how, just for example, like that's how we know each other, but you wouldn't know Westfield State. We're not the best in the nation. We're not the best in D3. We're not the best in our region. So what I try and tell our student athletes that aren't at, competing at the NCAA national tournament is, we got to get to that point. We got to get, there's also something called the Directors Cup at the end of the year. So in Division 3 or Division 1, 2, and 3 in NAI, they'll rank every team based on how you finish in NCAAs every year. So we want to get more teams at the NCAA. So we place in the NCAA tournament. So getting athletes to buy into that first and getting better and trying to, that's what everyone's goal is. Let's compete in the NCAA tournament. Let's win our conference, right? But the teams that are doing it right now, it's like, okay, cool. That's great. I'm not going to knock your accomplishments. How many people here are All-Americans? Right? So we don't have any All-Americans in the room. Okay, so we got to be fighting for that, right? So we got to be, oh, we go to the first round of the tournament every single year. Let's go to the second round. That's got to be our goal next year. So in the beginning of the year, it's just placing goals for them. That's got to be, what are our non-negotiables in the beginning of the year? So I'll sit every team down. Every year we'll have team meetings before their off-season training starts or right in the fall. I'll sit down with every single team and I'll be kind of the end of the conversation. They'll go the coaches, the athletic trainers, then me, and I'll kind of explain everything. But I'll always ask one question: what are our goals this year? Because I'm going to put my foot on the gas pedal. If it's to win 4 games, let me know now. I'll hold you accountable to winning 4 games. But if it's to win a national championship, let's go. I'm here for you. I'll do whatever you can. I'll do whatever you want me to do to get you to accomplish that goal. So really, it's on them, and they kind of dictate where the program's, where it's going to start and where it's going to go, just based on their goals. If we want to be conference champs, then we got to work as conference champs. But conference champs aren't late. Conference champs wear Westfield to the workouts. Conference champs always have great attitudes and want to get better. Conference champs always help out their teammates. So putting those all into a program is what lights the fire, and then just making it obvious to them of saying those types of things. People don't want to think that, 1 and 1 equals 2 or the stars align, anything like that. But, wearing the right attire to work is huge in any workplace when you get out of here, or showing up on time, or it's only a minute late. A minute late gets you fired at your job. So it's all those little things that turn the program and turn their team's culture, and that's what keeps their fire, or what I make and make it abundantly clear for them of, this is why we're here and this is why we got to get better. Just being here and being part of a club or a team is not it. You can go anywhere and wear a t-shirt. We want to go somewhere where we want to dominate. We want to win. We want to win the conference every year. and then we want to get national recognition. So that's kind of where our program's been going for the last 3 years.
I kind of want to piggyback off the logo on your chest that you've kind of just touched on. And I had a conversation with Donnie Mabe from Texas, and he had this brilliant piece of advice where it's like, no matter what badge you're wearing on your chest, think of it as the highest of the highest levels. Like, it doesn't matter if you're like D3 last in the conference. Like, if you're the new strat coach, treat it like it's fucking Texas. Treat it like it's Yale. Treat it like it's unbiased UW. Like the sentiment is there is like treat it as if it's like the highest
Oh yeah.
possible team that you can coach at right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% of, what I've always told is, like, be where your feet are, like, be here. I've fallen in the trap of it of, like, "Hey, maybe I wanna look at this school, or maybe I'll apply here and send out a bunch of applications," but that's not being where my feet is. I could make this place great, or, one of my former mentors, "Make the Alabama of where you're at." Everyone's always talking about Alabama, and they're great running football, but make this the Alabama of where you're at, and that's where I go in every single day of that's exactly it. The logo is a logo. You That's who you work for, right? It doesn't mean that I know more knowledge or less knowledge than a person that's at Division 1 level, right? And that's what a lot of people will say in the field or anything like that. Or you've had look if you've had on this podcast, you've had people from Texas all over the country, and it takes people like you to realize, hey, no matter what logo is on your chest, there's some good people out there, and there's some great strength coaches that wanna learn and make this field a little better as well. So, it's just being where your feet are and making this the best program possible. Because always thinking about somewhere else is taking away from what's going on right now.
It's me and Tom have actually had this conversation, and it's like we always like to say, no, I'm down with this team. I'm about this team until the next paying job comes.
Mhm,
Where that higher paycheck comes in, and you're like, fuck this, I'm off. But like it's true though. Like I'll give you this as an example. I don't know if I've went full in depth on this, but like me and my fiance talk about this often. Like if I was in the US, I'd be I'd be good. Like I could find a decent job that I'd be comfortable. I'd be making a decent pay for it. But in my heart, and again, I am religious, so like I believe that my higher intent in this world is to create something that's not been done in Europe the same way that you guys do it there. Like there is
mhm,
performance programs in the UK, but it's kind of like you do your thing, I'll do my thing. Like that's as much as it takes. And again, I'm generalizing. There is one or two that I personally know that do care a little bit more for their athletes, but the sentiment is still there in the sense that like that culture isn't always there. Like they're paying for a service as opposed to like again I mentioned off air that I went to the kids sports day today just to see what they were like, and it kind of changed my perspective on a lot of things. But it's like it's growing this culture of, and again I told you this, but I hate compliment you guys, but like the US do their system so well. And like you do win Olympics, you do win World Cups, you do win like major sporting events because that culture is there, like you've mentioned, from elementary all the way up to pro. Like you have SSE coaches, you have paid athletes, you have XYZ to make sure that that path is smooth. Like we don't have that here. So like my thing is like I need the US to rub off here. So my higher purpose is to create something like that. Today's episode is sponsored by Eccentric. You all know I'm a big fan of keeping training simple and effective, and flywheel training fits that perfectly. Now, I've been using Eccentric K-Box since 2021, and it's one piece of equipment, endless exercises, and resistance that adjust to you automatically. However much effort you put in is what you get out. No guessing the weight, no loading plates, just move. And the flywheel matches your effort perfectly. check out the K box or the K pulley at the link in the description.
Yeah, no, that's you're exactly right. I mean, as we know, like, I'm the first ever strength coach here, so, like, even in our own even in the United States, there's teams in our conference that don't have strength and conditioning coaches. There's teams that, kinda don't believe in that development. There's teams in our conference that have 1 full-time athletic trainer. Like, it all depends on what you put as a priority first, like, do you wanna make your, head strength coach full-time? We all see the job offers of you know, this, that, and the other, and it's a very low salary. Like, how how that school prioritizes strength and conditioning. If you wanna apply for that job, understand that that's the priority of that school in the strength and conditioning sense. They're gonna pay you $30,000, you went to school, and you got your master's, and you're certified, So that's where their mindset's at. But, yeah, no, it all depends on their priority, and I think everyone will come around to it of getting strength and conditioning coaches, even at the high school level. It's blooming in the United States right now, and hopefully that goes everywhere else. Or whatever the name they want to call a strength and conditioning coach. It's got to be somewhere, not just at like we talked about before, just the Olympic level. Like it's not just about the Olympics. That's not who we're worrying about. We gotta worry about all these other athletes, the younger athletes, the ones that are going through all the soccer academies too that are so huge in Europe as well. Like, they need some type of training as well to eventually go up to that world stage of the World Cup that's happening soon. So how are you doing in your academies, and do you believe in any type of development for your students or your student athletes?
I'll perhaps explain why I focus on the Olympic side. So in US, there's a lot more funding coming from like sponsorships or alumni or just like different avenues that can bring money into the school. In Europe, it's government funded.
Mhm.
So you only get funded if your country wins at the Olympics. So like that, I think that's perhaps maybe I should have explained that. That a lot of the funding from Sports Scotland or Sports England or like UK come from government funded programs that if you do well in the Olympics, we'll fund it. If not,
Yeah, wow.
tough fucking luck.
Yeah. And then even I've seen, like, during the Winter Olympics, like, if you win gold in the United States, you win this amount of money, and, like, every country has their own kinda scale of how much you personally win too, so
I'll tell you
it's
a story. I had a field hockey athlete plays for the Scottish national team. Any international competitions, she has to pay for her flights to represent the country. GB rowing, I think it was the last Olympics or the Olympics before that. The person who won gold, as soon as she landed, she went and worked a 12-hour shift in the hospital.
that's insane. Yeah,
So
no, that's it it's like that, even here too with our I wish I was training some Olympians, hopefully in the future, but, just like you've seen before with Snoop Dogg, and he would
mm,
kinda pay some of the budget because it's the same exact thing. Like, in their off season, they have full-time jobs, and then, during their training season, they're training for the Olympics, but who knows if they're making money doing that, you know? So it is very tough.
do you know what's the funniest one that I heard of?
Hmm.
Flava Flav sponsoring a team.
It's funny, Flava Flav, funny story about Flava Flav, at UNLV, he's a big guy in Vegas, right? So, he's always at the nightclubs around there, and after our home games, we would walk back into our tunnel, and who's standing right there high-fiving and hugging everybody is Flava Flav. I've hugged Flava Flav at every single one of our home games when I worked at UNLV. He is one of the nicest, like, just personally meeting to him and talking to him, like, it was like a genuine guy. He would ask me what I do with the team, and he was a very, very good guy, so him doing this for Olympics is honestly awesome as well. So
No, it's so the last Olympics was really good to see because like I think it highlighted a lot of the lack thereof money in
oh, yeah.
pro sports.
Oh, yeah.
So in Scotland there's the Scottish Games, which is like it's track and field meets some strongman events. The track and field, so the track athletes, if they and even the field athletes, if they win their competition, they get money. So like, they get prize money. Professional sprinters are sponsorship based. So like if they win a race, cool. Doesn't matter.
Mhm,
They don't get paid. So like people who are like they're not everyone is off scratch. So there's like, oh, what's it called? I'm blanking. There's handicaps.
mhm.
So like if you're really fucking quick, you're on scratch. Like you're on the line. And there could be someone like 2, 3 meters in front of you. So it's like Scottish sports is good in a way because like there's those type of events where you do get money to play, but like the professionals are like, yeah, if you get sponsorships, you've got some money. If not, yeah.
Yeah, it's kinda why I like, the UFC as well. It's like, you're fighting for money. Like, you're almost like, obviously you're competing for money, but, like, hard to say now with, again, NBA, but, like, if you're just playing a football game, you're playing a football game. No matter how good you do, if I throw 5 touchdown passes, I don't get paid more right now, right? So, but if I win this fight, I'm gonna win more, and then I could potentially win more if I got the best knockout of the night or whatever it was, or whatever's in my contract too. So, you are competing for money. That's got to make you hungrier because that's what's putting food on your table. That's what's paying your bills as well. So hopefully that, hopefully that sticks with them, and that kind of fuels what that bank account.
I had a question around sort of like it's kind of going back to the way you lay out your days and weeks. Obviously, you've got all sports,
Hmm.
and all sports are requiring different elements. Obviously, the fundamentals are the fundamentals. They're going to squat, they're going to hinge, they're going to push pull. You'll probably have some sort of knee dominance in there. How are you programming for all athletes in the sense of like filling their buckets into what they're needing for their seasons?
Yeah, so it's when I first start programming for any team, it's all about where their finish line is and work backwards from there. So I'm a big fan of just working backwards of I know my end goal and I got to work up to that moment. So, I always, kind of write everything down on paper first before I even put on the computer of this is where our finish line is. And then after that, it's what are, lapses in time that I can't get back, for example, summertime, I'm already getting texts from our football guys about, "Hey, what are we doing for the 4th of July week?" Because everyone goes on vacation and, you get a lag from, maybe that 30th till that Monday of everyone coming back. So it's like, what do we do? So, hey, Monday lift, Tuesday lift, the rest of the week take off, enjoy your 4th, and then we'll get back to it the following week. So there's holidays, there's breaks in time. Up here, we have snow days. That takes breaks in time. So after I have, the months down, the program down, how many times a week we're going to train, then I start building the program from there. And that kind of defines the X's and O's of my program of how many days a week we're going, how much time am I getting? How many athletes do I have? And then also it's what does my room look like? I can't have 40 kids in my room right now. It's not gonna happen. I have 20 and it's like it looks like we're almost elbow to elbow. So I got 3 double-sided racks. So that's 6 racks and we're about 2,000 square feet. So it's not the biggest weight room in the world, but we make it work. So after I know we're training 3 days a week. It's, you know, depending on the team, depending on what their main movement is, depending on what main movement I like for that team, every single team is gonna be different, right? Where some teams are gonna Olympic lift, some teams aren't gonna Olympic lift. Some teams are gonna do a lot of box squats, some people are gonna do a lot of split squats and unilateral squatting. It just depends on the team and their needs, and then just based on another thing people don't talk about is, your team's training history and how long you've been training with them is another reason why I think going from job to job is very hard. If you're going to, "Oh, I wanna go to this place after a year and this place after a year." I've had these athletes for 3 years, and I know what they like and I know what they don't like. So, it's about building that, and then, our hockey guys like to train a certain way. Our baseball guys like to train a certain way. Their coach likes them to train a certain way. So, rather than jumping ship and going from, learning different cultures every single year, that makes it hard on yourself. I'm at the same spot where I'm training athletes for a 4-year duration, and I have their coach for that 4 years too, and they know what's expected. So, then, knowing that team, it's what do I have in the room? So, I used to have it's old fitness center. Now we're kind of putting strength equipment in there. So it's now what do I have? I used to have 2 glute ham and reverse hypers, now I have 3. So now I could put more exercise over there in the back of the room, while in the dumbbell area, it could be something else, and that's kind of how our supersets will roll there. So we'll do a lot of if you look at my programming, it might look a little crazy because there's a lot of supersets. It might be 3 exercises in supersets just so I can get people kind of going around the room, so there's not a lot of clutter over at the glute hams because we only got 3 of them. So we don't have any kettlebells, so I can't do any kettlebell exercises. So that's kind of how the program starts. And then after that, I just, kind of make our program from there of where I want them to finish. And I'm not going to lie, I can't get a full year program done at once because then it takes away from the 17 other teams. And then it's like, okay, now that takes a long time for me. So then doing the next team, it's like, so I almost go phase by phase with my teams. I'll do a phase at a time or 2 or 3 just because I don't like putting football through a summer phase, and then I stop, and then I go back to it. I wanna kinda hit it when the juices are flowing, and I know what they wanna go to next, so I have everything pretty much mapped out till 4th of July, and now we're building on after that. But even a lot of programming is I could program till August until they're gonna come back, but if the program's not working and, hey, if we have that 85% week and we got weaker over the summertime when I see their I use Team Builder as well. When I see their max on Team Builder and they went down, it's like, "Oh, well, I gotta scratch the July program because we just got weaker in June." So, there's always that checks and balances too, that Team Builder makes it very easy for yourself of programming for your teams too.
Shout out to Team Builder, big sponsor.
Shout out Team Builder.
um, but so I think I've got two follow up questions from that, and by the sounds of it, you are kind of limited on your equipment that and space in general. But I find that those are the most intriguing programs because it no longer becomes of that thing of, oh, let's just head across there and use this machine because it's designed for that. We are now having to tap into our imagination, and I love sleds, drags, and pushes and pulls. I didn't have one until recently. So what I used is an old like step up box, dumped a bunch of cowbells in there, tied the bottle rope to it, dragged it.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that.
Like again, what it sounds like you're doing is like you're optimizing what you have. And again, try sets and quad sets are great because like you get done quick. Like you're
Mhm.
watching everything you need. Takes maybe 2 minutes to go through everything. Like you're condensing everything. So I use trisets and quad sets all the time. But like that imagine it like you're limited by your imagination in that piece. It's like, okay, I'm limited. I can either bitch about it or do something about it.
100%. 100%, yeah, and the good coaches adjust, the good coaches pivot, it's what I learned early on, so what, now what? I'm not gonna get the biggest budget in the world, and I know that. I'm not gonna get a 4th glute ham this year, and I know that. I'm lucky enough that I can afford Team Builder in my budget, and then, if I can get bands from there, we'll just get some bands, and, just like you said, you could be so creative with whatever you have, and you can make a sled out of a box. You can make bands and do any type of banded exercises. A kid comes in with a cast one day because he slipped on ice. It's like, well, now I need to adjust his program. So it's the same exact thing. I can't, whine and cry about it. I just gotta, make the program better from there. I just gotta keep getting them stronger. We're at a problem right now where it's, our football players are complaining to me because our dumbbells only go up to 110. It's like, all right, we'll find a way to make it stronger. We'll pivot it. Let me put some fat grips on it. Let's see how that goes, right? So, we're rowing fat grips, 110s, and then now we're putting bands to the outsides, and now the dumbbells are 140s with fat grips, and it's good problems to have, but it's also fun because those types of things is yeah, I would love to have a 150-pound dumbbell. But the things that people don't, things that people don't forget is things like that, it is gritty. And like I said, it's D3, it's gritty. We're gonna put all that weight on there just to make it work. It's safe. Don't, we're gonna be fine. But, we're not gonna forget putting 3 mini bands on a dumbbell, putting weights on it, and then, when it hits the ground, all the bands fly up and all that. So it's fun, and then you just take pride in that, like, that's who we are, like, that's what it's gonna be, like, I'll show you I'll get a quote for you guys on how much a 120-pound dumbbell is gonna cost, and then we could have a conversation if we wanna fundraise for it, but it's gonna be a lot of fundraising, so, as we know, the price of equipment, so it's just about being creative with your exercises, constantly rotating too. So like I said, if you look at my program, you know, it's a constant rotation of program. As soon as we get good at a program, or I'm sorry, as soon as we get good at an exercise, it's like, next week it's going to be something different. It's going to be a different row. It's going to be a different horizontal row rather than a single arm dumbbell row. Let's put on a landmine. Let's put a fat grip on it. Let's hook it to a cable. Let's hook it up for speed, let's do a weighted chin up. Let's do a weighted pull up. Let's do it for speed. Whatever it might be, there's always those progressions or regressions with your programming as well. So and then have fun with it. Like that stuff is fun to me too. Like it's not fun, no knocking any big school. It's not fun seeing like, hey, let me just ask my coach for a brand new $5,000 piece of machine. And it's going to be here next week and it's going to have our colors and our logo on it tomorrow. Like, I don't know. Like that's not the fun for me. The fun for me is like we'll find a way to get it done,
regardless.
however we gotta get it done, regardless of our situation, right? So, we'll get stronger. We don't need any Division I weight room for us to get stronger. We're gonna get stronger in our 2,000 square foot weight room, I bet you that. So, it's just about pivoting and adjusting, and that's what's gonna kinda make you the strength coach that you are.
You might enjoy this one. So we recently moved gyms, and there was like a month period where we had no racks, we had no dumbbells, no kettlebells. All I had is bands, a tricep bar, which is like it's a mini version of a trap, like a half trap bar, like condensed. What else did I had? I had a 50 kilogram sandbag and a fuck ton of bands. Like we were
It's
banded.
all you need. All you need honestly, I have so many bands, and I learned this in my other internships, but, like, you can make so many exercises with just bands. Like, all you need is bands. But anyways, keep going, sorry.
No, it's all good. I agree. I fully agree. But we were doing lat pull downs. So what we did was like we just held the bands out, stretched them out, and you were just rowing it, but like in a horizontal position to get the lats.
Yeah.
And they're like, that fucking hurts. I was like, yeah.
No, that's exactly right. So, I don't know if you ever heard, but we do something every Friday with our team, Arm Farm Friday, right? We just, pump up our arms. The last 10 minutes of lift, I'll let them loose and just go. That's when the shirts come flying off and things like that. But, sometimes I'll let them run it or I let a captain run it. Hey, it's on our captain today, just so they can have some say in the program too. Sometimes I'll be like, all right, grab a red band. They're like, a red band? What are we gonna do with the red band? I was like, I can give you those 5-pound dumbbells and I'll give you a killer workout. It really doesn't matter, there's bodyweight circuits that are gonna kick your butt. There's a lot of, lack of equipment that you can make a workout out of it. You don't need the Taj Mahal of weight rooms to get somebody stronger. All you need is a couple plates and a barbell and a bench and a squat rack, and, hey, you got a hell of a program right there. Now be a coach. Go coach them.
100%. I love the piece about progression regressions as well. And I think this is not something like it's something that you have to experience it, but it doesn't get taught. Like, when was the last conference you went to and broke down like progressions and regressions for squats or for power presses or like any exercise?
Yeah, I agree. I'll hear, like, the progressions, but, like, I've had conversations with our exercise science department upstairs, and no one talks about the regressions or, like, when do we go back down? And that's a problem with, like, okay, well, we've, front squatted, or we've done the goblet squat or the bodyweight squat to the goblet squat, from the goblet squat to the front squat, from the front squat to the back squat. It's like, this person is not ready to go to the front squat yet, and they're not ready from the front squat to the back squat yet. So there's gonna have to be, instead of, like, one program, it's gonna have to be sometimes what I do with, my higher training age teams is there's a level 1 and a level 2 program of, they're at front squats, they're at back squats. You wanna get the back squats, you gotta dominate your front squats. Right, and that could be a coach's eye. It could be, hey, it gotta be 2.0 your body, whatever, or, it could be anything. But I totally agree is you don't really see the going back down. I don't know if it's a pride thing with coaches. I don't know if it's if it's, hey, they've done it for 4 weeks, they should be good at it. It could be their first 4 weeks ever doing a goblet squat. And then also that, you're doing a goblet squat on every Monday for 4 weeks. So that's 4 days in a whole month, and in that 4 days, how many reps you give them? 40, 4 by 10? So, like, they need more practice, they need more muscle memory with that movement pattern, so they get better at the movement pattern.
No,
It might just
I love sorry, go on.
No, go ahead, I would just say they just need more practice with the movement pattern.
Mhm. So there's a couple reasons why I love this conversation. And so I see anyone from like 4 years old to like 60s, like that's my age range. Like I don't discriminate. I go fucking
Yeah.
everywhere. But the thing I've picked up is like people who are 30 above are probably back squatting wrong. And like they've just started, they're probably back squatting wrong. So what I've been seeing and testing a lot of is like, okay, back squats, yeah, they're great. I love a back squat. But like the amount of tilt that you have on your torso is fucking insane. I don't like that.
Mhm,
Let's get you a little bit more upright.
mhm,
Let's stuck it up, let's squat in there. Like let's regress it right back to the beginning. Like if I have a performance group in, the first couple of years we're fucking goblin squatting. Like I want you upright. Like I want you to push from your heels. And it's like it's that thing of like if you've never been taught a movement properly and like you get it straight away, it's fucking brutal. Like kids in RDLs, teach a kid how to RDL, then you're a good coach.
that's true,
Right.
that's very true.
It's it's one of those. It's like progressions, and again, it's kind of social media based. Like you've seen those fucking 50 exercises in one exercise, like
Yeah,
fucking pointless. Just do
mhm,
one. Just pick one. You'll be
yeah,
good. But it's like it's kind of taking that and being like, okay, you're actually not a great mover for that specific movement. Let's look at what else we can do. And like I've got a client who is petrified of a barbell. Guess what I don't do? Any barbell work.
yeah.
Ask me how strong she is. She's fucking strong. Like it doesn't fucking matter. Like you can still get people there.
Yeah, you don't like I said, you don't need the Taj Mahal, you don't need a Eleiko barbell to get somebody strong, like, you don't need a barbell at all to get somebody strong, so I totally agree. It's I think a lot of it might be from social media, it might be the whole you like I said, I saw a video the other day, it's like, "This is how I progress RDLs." It's like, why can't they just why don't we just keep loading the barbell RDL? Why don't we just keep loading the single leg RDL? It doesn't have to be into a single leg clean, like single leg RDL clean. Like that's, I don't know if my athletes want to get there. Let's get them strong at those exercises and let's master them. Again, we're only touching them on them a couple times a week. So you might make fun of me for this, but like I was listening to, I don't even know who I was listening to, but I had just a thought process of they need more reps and more time under a barbell or with the motion. So my first years in fall for football, our hang cleans were 4x10s. I'm not doing 5x3s. I think they just needed more time with the bar. So they just did 4x10s with the bar. That's all we did. Nothing that if they couldn't do it, we're just doing jump shrugs, right? That's the regression part. So if they can't do the 4x10, but it's just about mastering the movement. They got to get better at the movement. If we're teaching people how to train, you're training the movement, right? So let's get them better at doing the hang clean. How do you get them better at that? Performing it more. How do you get better at the sport? Practicing more. So let's practice the hang clean more. So that's what I was just doing a lot of, but let's just get better at the movement. Let's do more of that movement. So that's kind of where my thought is and my mind is when we talk about progression, regression. Keep it simple and load the pattern. Get them stronger, get them faster, get them bigger, get them better at their sport. That's kind of my philosophy on that stuff.
So I wouldn't laugh at you for the full right hands because if someone's can't feel something, I guess they're doing 25 reps of that thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
those are the things, like, until you're fatigued and like, I'll tweak it. I'll be like, "Okay, let's pin our shoulders back. Let's bring the
Mhm.
chest forward. Like, let's be out and proud about it." Like, I'll do these changes, but, like, if I really need someone to feel something, like, it's just the connection isn't there, let's fucking let's just go until we feel it. Like,
Yeah.
and again, I'm not saying they're fucking extremely heavy. They might just be on an empty bar, or they might just be like
Yeah.
5 kilograms. Sorry, but I can't use pounds. I will not.
We had so my first internship at Yale, we had kilograms. So, like, we had our everything was on team builder on the iPads or on the iPads, and then I would have, like, a calculator in my notebook like this, and I'm like, "Geez, I don't normally do quick math. Let's not make sure nobody gets hurt. What are we in today? Hopefully we're" geez, it was hard. It was hard, but, yeah, no, but yeah, back on the hang cleans, yeah, it wasn't obviously the hang cleans is to produce some type of power, which is they're producing power, it just had to be 10 reps of it. How does rep 10 look? Not powerful, but again, it's just learning the movement, getting on the bar. Now they're some of our best lifters. I change it every year, right? I change kind of that first year program. Let's see what sticks. Let's see what's good. Let's see how if they want to do. I've done the starting strength approach. I've done the let's go 5 pounds a week approach. I've done it all, and they all seem to work. And I just haven't stuck to one quite yet. I think they all are good and they all have their time and place. So maybe with this next go around, we'll see how these student athletes are, and just based on how they are when they walk through the doors of their training age.
I'll give you one for. I don't think you need to pick one.
Yeah,
Like, different shows for different folks. Like,
exactly.
I think that's what's great about this industry, and I think this is where it also kind of goes wrong. Is people die on hills and fight for their systems, but it's
Oh
like
yeah.
something I've learned from this podcast, and it's like this will be 141 regular episodes, but it's like 150 like side quests in total. And like I speak to a lot of people. A lot of people have different opinions. I'm not fucking doing all of them.
Mhm.
Like it's fucking overload. It's too much. But what is happening is like I'm learning from everyone, different systems, because everyone has different experiences. Everyone's been in different weight rooms. Everyone's had different mentors. Everyone's had different athletes. Like not one case has been the same. So I can't sit here and tell you, yeah, this system works because I did it. It worked for me. Like, yeah, cool, but your athletes don't like kettlebells. There goes half of my program. They don't like bands. Well, fuck, all my program's gone.
Yeah, my program's done too.
So it's like it's that thing of like I don't believe that there's one strict system that helps athletes develop. I think we kind of need to listen to a little bit of everyone and see what works, and then fucking trial it. Like trial it on yourself. Like today, I had a client in, but I dropped in with them, and we were doing half kneeling pull off presses, and I was like, "This is pretty fucking easy just now. We're on a decent band. Let's see if I can make it suck a little bit more." I put a 10 kilogram cowbell on it, then fucking narrowed it down to 5 reps. Guess who scores on fucking fire? It's like it's trialing these things on yourself and then on people.
Yeah.
I believe that to be the best way.
Yeah, and you talked about, like, everywhere you go, you're gonna learn from people, and that's the advice I kinda gave to myself. Every internship site I'd been to was like, "Hey, why don't you like, you didn't get a job, like, you're gonna go somewhere and intern again?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Why don't you just stay here and intern here?" And I was like, "Well, I wanna learn from more people. I wanna learn different styles." And everyone's like, "It's not gonna look good on a resume that you bounce here from bounce here, bounce here." I'm like, "I'm interning, like, I'm not this no one's paying me, like, I wanna learn the football side. Now I wanna learn the football side from somebody else. Now I wanna learn the Olympic side and how they train teams." So, it's all about everything in life is a learning lesson, right? It's either you learn what you wanna do, or you learn what you don't wanna do. So, take the good, leave the bad, and then move on. Now you make your programs. Everyone has their own 2 cents, but I think a hill that I'll die on is like your program needs to change every year though, because your athletes are going to change. The people that are walking through the doors are going to change. Who knows the next recruiting class that's coming in? We just got a really good recruiting classes last year. Bringing another one again. I'll just refer to football, but they're going to be a different beast. This freshman football class just crushed it this past year with this off season. It could have been by the 4x10 cleans. I don't know, but they had a great job. Their numbers are the best freshman class that I've had here, just speaking numbers wise. So always changing the program, always keeping it fresh, always doing something new. And again, like you said, try something. I'm at a place where it's Division 3, where, like you said before about NAL, I don't have high stakes. My quarterback isn't making $1 million a year. It'd be cool too, but he's not making $1 million a year. So I can try different things. I could run different styles of training on these student athletes just because they could be the guinea pigs for it, and I'll see what works. And I've done that before, and then I've done it with other teams. I'm like, oh, I ran APRE on our baseball team, crushed it. They were awesome. And then I was like, ooh, let's run it on football. Wow, football's training age is very low. They cannot run APRE. So it's all about, different strokes for different folks, like you said, and seeing what program fits best for your situation and your student athlete.
I'll tell you a funny story about APRE. So I was a performance athlete at college, and my coach ran APRE on me. It got me yoked. Like, I was
Oh yeah.
struck.
Oh yeah.
Cuts a few years later, and by a few years later, I mean last year, I'm with Brian Mann.
Oh wow.
We're having dinner. It's me, Coach Ron McKeefrey, Brian Mann, and another intern that's in the UK from Coach
What a
Max.
what a
Pro.
table.
Yeah, so we're just exchanging stories, like we're just talking, having a good time. And then a couple weeks later, Brian Brian goes on the podcast, does an episode with me, and like I completely forget like I've done APRE. Like I know I've done it, but like it doesn't compute. Like the two don't compute. My coach then messages me and like I watched the episode with Brian Mann. Like, so I wish I was part of that because I was so many questions and whatnot. I was like, fuck yeah, I run APRE. He is APRE.
That's so funny. I mean, APRE 10 is that might be one of the hardest things you'll do in training, right? Like that, maybe some German volume training, like maybe the Husker circuit. Those are all up there. Things I don't want. There it is. Yeah, but no pun intended, like, Brian Mann is the man. Like, I've even contacted him. Like, I just emailed his school email when he's still at Texas A&M, I believe. When I emailed him at his school email at Texas A&M, and he got right back to me the next day. Like, he's a great person. I reached out, asked him questions, and we just kinda went back and forth about how do you auto-regulate in-season training. And, I need I need, some type of, like, he gives you, like, the workbook for APRE of, if it's, this many reps over, you're adding weight, or
Mhm.
this many reps, you're subtracting weight. So I was like, how do I do this in season? Because this is freaking awesome. So that, and then all of his VBT stuff is just pure gold too. So,
So
but yeah, reaching. Go ahead.
I still kick myself about the VBT stuff. So we went into it because when we were together, that's something that me and him connected on quite a bit because we were talking and like we had this conversation, but I just thought, let me bring it to the podcast because it was a phenomenal conversation, and I think we both took away a lot from it, and because we were talking about VBT and AI and like how they two can merge and connect.
Mhm.
Like in my head, we had the background conversation, so like I didn't bring it with me to the podcast.
Mhm.
So there was a massive gap missing in the VBT stuff and AI because like that's one thing I still regret. I should have like really broke down, but like he's fascinating to talk to. Like his way of thinking. I tried to ask him like it's kind of a cheeky question. I was like, "What do you do for conditioning for your athletes?" And he's like, "Just fucking repeated sprints." Like,
That's really it. You want to run faster, run sprints. I mean, that's, I totally agree. But he's as sharp as they get, but then also, like, that's one of the people I need to shake their hand before it's my time in coaching just because of what he's done for the field and, what he's done for me, and then he just a great person. I don't even know the guy. I just had a couple conversations with him, and, you know, I'm just a huge fan of what he does as well for the industry, and he's always gonna help out the industry too, and if you follow him on social media, I love his he's been doing some hot takes about, coaches and things like that, and I think he's gotta do more of that because he's almost, one of those godfathers in the industry of people rely on you for information and, you say all the right things that we might need some more of that stuff on social media from good information from good people, and that's what we gotta follow on social media.
I think that's something that me and Tom really connected on, and we really grew a liking for each other from that. It's like, again, I told you before, but it's like it's not about me. Like, it's about this higher purpose. And I think, like, I might sound like a pompous prick, but like I believe that if I'm able to help someone in some way get a little bit further, I've done my job. Like, the podcast is, again, I said this at the very beginning and I'll still say it. Like, the podcast is very selfishly for me. Like, I'm just having conversations that I want to have conversations. I was speaking to who I want to speak with. But like, I'm in a position where I can film them and post them. So like, that can help someone else. And I've had coaches message me being like, "Hey, that was a really fucking good podcast. Can I jump on a call with you?" Of course. Like, let's jump on when you have time. But it's that thing, and Brian Mann is exactly this. Like, when we had dinner, it was just sharing knowledge. It wasn't like, I'm here, you're there. It was just like we were all in the same place. We were all talking about the same thing. We all shared the stories that we've been involved with. And like, that's, again, that's the environment that I want SSC to be.
I'm That's like I told you before, like, that's who I am in a nutshell, like, I'm a person, you're a person, Imma treat you like that, like, I could care less who you are, like, who you work for and all that, like, I'm gonna talk to you as if I'm talking to my brother or anything like that, like, I want us to treat each other like human beings, no matter if it's coaching, no matter if we're talking about anything else outside of there too, but, yeah, I can't that's something that I will always stick with me is just being a person and anything that he does, he's the same person. Any podcast he goes on, he's the same guy. On social media, he's the same guy, So, like, we're always told to be that same coach every single day you walk in the room, be that same person in public too, be that same person on social media, always be that good person. We need more of them in this world that we live in nowadays. But yeah, no, just to touch upon, your podcast, yeah, you're out there I think you're honestly accomplishing your goal. You're helping out a lot of people. You're helping out people like myself that this is really flourishing a lot of information to strength coaches that need to continue their education. So just these small conversations are what's making this industry a lot better. Continuing your education and learning a lot more from these little, like I said, conversations or podcasts. Like this is important and what strength and conditioning needs.
Thank you. It's, again, we've had this conversation, but it does mean a lot. And now this is the point where I can't take compliments.
No, it's been awesome. You asked me the chance to hop on, and we've had conversations on social media before of like, just like, hey, this is a cool podcast. Like you've had so many of people that I've worked with on this podcast before, Tom, Tofi, and then people that I just know personally that've been on this podcast as well that are awesome in the field too. So yeah, no, I can't speak higher. So as soon as I got the opportunity, I said, yeah, 100%. When are you free? When you're in a different country, let's make it work. If it's got to be if you're at midnight or if I'm at midnight, let's do it. So I couldn't turn down this possible this important moment. So, yeah, no, I'm should have said at the beginning, but yeah, I'm honored to even be here.
Now, so this is the thing that people think, and it's not how I think. Like, this is just a conversation. Like,
Oh yeah,
numbers aside, I don't give a fuck about the numbers. Like, I post it and that's it. And then I make a couple posts and that's it. I also don't think that following nor badges mean much. Like, if you're a great coach and I've seen you're a great coach, and like there's things that I'm like, I wonder how this works. Like, I'll message you. I'll be like, hey, let's get on because I need to find out more. And it's like, yes, I've had really decent coaches and people who have done a lot for the industry, but I'm more bothered about like the human piece. Like, are you a fucking decent human? If so, let's fucking have a conversation because that's what I'm interested in. And I think I've mentioned this on the podcast, but like when I think this was after episode. It was after episode like 25 ish, because that's when things kind of changed. But like I read a book on conversations, like how to have a conversation. I've been talking at that point for like 20 odd years. I knew how to have a conversation, but like the mechanics of having a conversation is completely different to just having a conversation. Like you might have seen it, but like I don't mind sitting in silence. If we're talking about something and I need to think about it a little bit deeper, I'm not going to just talking to get my opinion out. Let me think about how I feel and then I'll talk about it. And I think like that's something that really changed how I did this podcast because it didn't become like I need to prove to the coach that I know what I'm talking about. Let me just
Yeah,
sit
and
back. You shouldn't.
yeah, no, you're right. It goes back to traits like you're talking about before, like, what are you teaching these 4-year-olds? I'm teaching them to listen. I'm teaching them to comprehend what I'm trying to say. So, like we talked about in this podcast before, like no matter where it is in our lives, there's meaning or relevancy to behind whatever you're doing. If it's just saying, "Hey, when I speak, you listen," or if I'm doing something elementary like a crawl, there's reasons why we're doing this crawl right now. But yeah, no, knowing how to have a conversation, knowing how to listen is definitely things like that. And then just touching upon, we talk about DMing people, like that's all about being a human being. And, if you're posting on social media, I'm going to DM you and ask you a question about your program. You're like, hey, why are you doing this? And if there's no DM back, it's like, okay, well, social media might be about you then, right? Not might not be about strength and conditioning. So I've had that happen before. I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind DMing any strength coach in the country. Like I'll just and ask you a question. Like I'll email Brian Mann to a school email. I want to learn more. That's always just been my MO. I want constant knowledge. I want people to be telling me different styles of programming and where their mind's at and that whole thing. I want to see your program. I want to ask you questions about your program, not in a negative way, but I want to constantly crave learning and do more so I can bring back to my student athletes and make Westfield State University a lot better than when I first started.
So I love this piece because of exactly what you're talking about. What a lot of people don't see is like the amount of rejections I've had. And people just think I've stumbled on this. And it's like if you look through my DMs and you've seen how many people reject it, like again, I don't take that personally. They could be for a plethora of reasons. So I'm like sick. One thing that coach Mark taught me was like it sometimes says more about them than it does you. So pay no attention to it.
100%. 100%. I'm a big believer in that too. I mean, I even emailed Coach Mack about a job that he had open at like Fresno State, and I was like, I'm not going to hear back from Coach Mack. And he emailed me and explained the interview process and all this and that. And I was like, wow, I didn't expect, to get that type of, but that's just, you speak about him all the time in your podcast. And I think nothing, he's another one that's, kind of one of those titans in our industry of developing strength and conditioning. So learning the most from him it's probably been a blessing for you as well.
I'll say this. He's kind of like Thomas in the sense that like if you phone him, he'll probably pick up. Obviously, there's a select few people he does that for. He doesn't do it for everyone. But like if Thomas, like if I can phone him right now, and if he's free, he'll pick up and we'll chat for an hour or two.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Make
like
sure make sure you have a pen and a piece of paper down too, because he's gonna throw in a lot of knowledge at you, and a lot of times it'll, like you said, it'll be quiet, and I'm like, I'm just writing things down. He's like, "Hello," and I'm like, "What'd you say 5 minutes ago?" And I'm like trying to write. I'm like, if he speaks, I listen. Like I'm not speaking. Go ahead, Randall off whatever you got to do. I'm writing it down. So yeah, I can't speak highly of him as well, and he's the reason why I'm still doing this, to be honest, and the constant conversations we have with him too. Outside of here is kind of what makes our relationship great, and I have people like that have my back that are really why I'm still doing this thing.
Yeah. No, I kind of wanted to ask a secondary question about being in D3 and like the inner workings of it. So in this industry, we talk a lot about the science, about the tests, and about the measurements, and about everything else. Obviously, in D3, there's no like you said like I don't know how like exaggerated or not exaggerated this is, but like team builder is like you get team builder and you might have a GHR coming in. But like with the testing, like what are you doing for the testing and how are you making sure like things are progressing in a way that's measurable?
Yeah, kind of going back to like the programming. It's certain teams will have certain tests. So some teams, again, don't test. It's not like every team needs to do a bench press test. We found out many of times that the bench press does not matter at all, right? For majority of sports. So my basketball team is not going to max out bench press testing. They're gonna we're gonna do a lot of verticals, right? We'll do a lot of plyos. We'll do a lot of if our upper body, we'll just do chin ups for weight and things like that, and then we'll test our squat. But certain teams will have certain stages where football, we're gonna test, you know, we're gonna test the squat, we're gonna test the clean, we're gonna test the bench, we're gonna test all those things that are going to what we say carry over to our sport. So team builder does help if it's just a one man show, right? And with our testing, it's at certain times of the year that we do some type of testing. It could be, like I said, every kind of we test. The last time we tested with football was the week before spring break, so that was March. So we're right now going off of March numbers. But again, the good thing about Team Builder is, do you necessarily need to test? No, because the numbers are going to increase as time goes on. Like if they're moving the weight and they're accomplishing a certain amount of reps, then you know their number's going to go up naturally. So then we're going to base it off that number. Do I need to do a day of testing? No. So that's a good thing of investing in Team Builder too. They'll have the Epley formula in there of just, hey, I'm going to refer to that, and if they're doing an open set this week and they can, hey, let's let it eat, and hopefully the numbers go up, and then we'll go from there. So that's kind of a lot that we do with our testing. Now, do I wish we did more testing? Yeah. Would I love force plates? Yeah, I would love those. Budget and time is the reason why we're not gonna get force plates. So, we'll do VBTs, I do have a jump mat that's mine. It's just a plyo mat, or it's just a just jump mat. So it's just going to give you a number and your flight time, and that's all you're going to get. So those are the numbers that we get. We still do real type of training here in Division Three. Just because I have 18 teams doesn't mean I'm not, doing any type of real training. Or the men's basketball team and the women's basketball team have the same program. They go off two different programs. They're two different training ages, and they're testing many different things. Also, just to see if the program's working or any type of testing is I'll see what the coaches wanna do. Yes, I ask my coaches, kind of their 2 cents of what they think about training and that whole thing. So, if you remember last year when the Houston Cougars made the NCAA tournament in basketball, the big thing on social media was that their mile time was everyone was below 6 minutes. Our basketball coach caught buzz of that and was like, "We're running miles every single week until we're under 6 minutes so we can win the national championship this year." So, we did miles, and the guys liked it and they rose to the occasion, and they got better at running miles. Did it get them better at the sport? No. It got them better at kinda chasing a goal as a team and pushing each other as a team of that. There is some type of, yeah, they probably got something out of it running miles. Technically that much better at the sport, or should we have done something more sport specific? Yes, we should have, right? But I think the culture and the buy-in might have been a little more important at that time with our guys. So, but yeah, every single team is going to test differently. Some teams, like I said, don't even test at all. Women's golf, I'm not testing. I'm testing their attendance. All right, can you show up? Right? Can you go through our standards? Like that's what the test is that day. And, advice I got early on in coaching at UConn was, you're not testing today, technically max out testing, but you're testing something. You're testing something with their attitude, with their technique. If it's a new movement, you're testing something, and you got to find out what it is. What are you testing that day? It could be anything. It doesn't got to be. this, that, and the other, benching, squatting, I know the big 3, what everyone worries about. It could be anything of how are they getting better from walking into those weight room doors is testing for me.
Another great thing on that point, Team Builder has a history button on the bottom right corner that like it tells you exactly how they've progressed. If like you just
Mhm.
scroll through, like I use that with mine so much because like sometimes like oh, I can't remember what I did last week. No fucking issue. Let's have a look.
And we're testing that, and, like, if it's progressive overload, like, that's we gotta get better at that, so we gotta add on 5 more pounds or 2.5 pounds, and it's funny when you say that because they look so confused of, like, "How am I supposed to know what I did last week?" And you go on the phone and you press that button, and they're like, "Whoa." Like, I've seen every single arm dumbbell row for the last 4 months, it's like, "Yeah," and this is what I see on my end, so I know what you've been doing as well too, so it's a great feature to have.
I kind of want to ask about obviously the coaches have some say, and you mentioned like everyone's mile has to be under 6.
Mm.
Version 3, where again, not everything is tracked to the same level that is at D1. How are you looking at their load management and how are you going around making sure they're not burning out or overtraining?
Yeah, and just to be clear, like, it could be done at a higher level, like, you've had Adam Fight on here, and they got all the bells and the whistles, and they're 30 minutes down the road from me. They produce a lot of strength coaches out there, and they do a lot of good training as well, so, me with a one-man show it's very hard to, like you're saying, do all this stuff. All I have is the checks and balances for the weight room, okay? So, everything that I do in the weight room it's all through Team Builder. Again, I have, whether I'm going through INOL, which talk to Newman about INOL all day if you want to, or relative intensity. That's kind of my checks and balances with my prescribed lifts. But after that, like I have them for an hour. After that hour, it's all football coach, or it's all sport coach. So they might. I'd like that to be the next investment because we just see a lot of I don't know if athletes are recovered enough, right? So to answer your question, like I don't do a lot of load management just based on not to make an excuse. It's me with 18 teams, and we're just doing a lot of weight room speed and agility work. After that, when they go to their practice, I don't know. Like a lot of times, coach will be like, "Hey, we're doing conditioning today. What would you recommend?" Our baseball and football coach will do that. I'm trying to get other teams on board to be like, "Let me run your conditioning," or "Let me take that out of the way during our team lift." So I'll just do it, in our first 30 minutes of our team lift. And then practice, it's just strictly practice, practice. Get better at your sport. We don't got to be running around, running sprints when I can handle that. And it's going to be handled with like you're saying, a prescribed load. But like I said, if I'm not there and seeing it, I don't know what they're doing. And then, I'll ask the coach, what do we do that day? I'll ask the, you know, player what we did that day, and it's almost like 2 different stories. It's like, "Did you have a minute rest time or 2-minute rest time or is it 30 seconds?" So depends on who you ask. It's who how many rest time how much rest time they actually got. So the unfortunate thing is, it does happen in front of my face, and I really wish we can just do more to manage that. I can only do so much. I can do it in the weight room, how much they're running at practice unless I'm there, and, all based on the sport coach.
Mm. No, it's always interesting. And I think back to a little bit more of the conversations we need to have in this field. Load management works both ways. Like you could be overtraining and burning out, or you could not even be hitting half of what you should be. And I
Yeah.
think me and Steph Grubbs had an awesome conversation about this, and it's like again, I also understand that I'm talking from a position where I'm private and I can do these things on my own time and it doesn't affect any laws or rules. Whereas like the NSCA is a little bit different, where there is rules on how much they can train and whatnot. But it's like if you have subs, they need to catch up with the play time. So like they don't undertrain. So if they don't play a game, at the end or the day after, they're running to catch up on the mileages. like they're catching up on the sessions, and
Mhm.
it kind of goes back to the conversation of you're only as strong as your weakest link. If your starter gets injured, your backup has to be playing at the same level.
Yeah, no, and some of that we do here is we'll have the honest conversation. Like I said, like everything's transparent in my weight room. Like it's going to be an honest conversation of like, hey, if you're not getting playing time, like you're not playing. Like add another set. Like we can do another set without going, going overboard. We're not. It's not a max out set, but like, hey, let's do another set because this is our our bare minimum of what they're going to do or what I need them to be at. If you need to do more because you're not playing on the Saturdays, then do more because again, like you're saying, a lot of people are one play away. Funny story, we had a hockey player and he would always lift and I'll be like, hey, you know, game days today, here's what I would give you because, you're our third string goalie. And I go, I'm not gonna go too crazy because you have game day. He's like, I'm not playing. And I go, okay. And I go to all the games too. Goalie goes down, number one with a groin injury. Next goalie breaks his skate, and then next thing you know, who's out there? The guy I just trained 4 hours ago. So, you never know when it's your time, and you always gotta be ready, but like I said, there's always gotta be those honest conversations of, if you're not doing enough, we need to get you up to that speed. There's a reason why you're not playing, so you might need some more development. You might need a third lift a week, and we do that with a lot of our team. Or sometimes it is the basketball approach of they're going to condition after the game, or they're going to do a post game workout if they didn't play, and they're going to do a lot more minutes than the person who just played, so they could get their cardio or their aerobic endurance up that the basketball team just got because again, if one guy goes down, here we go. You're next up, and you gotta be in shape to be able to play for 40 minutes.
Mm. I mean, that would be some neuro prep for the hockey athlete.
Ye ye Yeah, no, that was so funny to see. That was a good time, so, uh,
What would be some advice that you would give new coaches or coaches coming into this industry?
learn, and learn some more, like, I just don't think there's enough knowledge and conversations like this having that are going on around, like, we need to have more conversations about strength and, like, what real strength is, like we said, like there's people you wanna see on social media, and there's people you don't wanna listen to on social media, like, I'll follow people and I'll listen to them, but I'm not taking anything from it. Learn and learn from all the right people, don't f go for all the shiny bells and whistles of training, and I need this, that, and the other to have a good program, because your next stop might not have that. You might be at a Division III school, and you might not have any force plates or VBTs or anything like that, or this certain machine that's, a strong pillar in your programming, so learn I can't stop stressing how much to learn. I mean, with my former interns and former athletes that are strength and conditioning coaches now, that's what I constantly force on them, and I put them in group chats, and I make them have conversations of what's new and, "Well, hey, what do you think about this post?" Or, "I'm reading this book. What are you all reading?" Or, "Here's this podcast. What do you think about it?" So I can't constantly stress enough how much more we need to learn, and you can't be complacent of where you're at in this field. And it's always good to that people talk about networking. It's just good to have those conversations with. I never thought in my life I'd have a conversation with Brian Mann, right? I never thought I'd be on a podcast, but here we are today. So those are all the things that that continuing education has got me to is these moments like this.
So I love where you're going with this, and I've kind of pulled something up.
Mhm.
But I was having a conversation. I was actually kind of three different conversations on the same topic. Again, I always feel like I sound like a pompous prick, but like I was able to sit down with Mike Stone in person for a while, and me and Meg Stone, Mike Stone, Alex Borg sort of sat down and we're kind of like just talking. We got into this really good conversation about strength and what is strength. Tim Sukumel is also a great friend, and I speak with him often. I was actually just with him on Saturday, or no, Friday, sorry. And we always have this conversation like, what is strength? Can you be too strong? What is too strong? Like, what is strength? Like, genuinely, like, what is it? And I kind of always bring up this video. I also had this conversation with Tom, but I watched this video with Michael Jatelli and Mitchell Hopper, the strongman.
Yeah.
I'll put it up so people can see. Um, but like this is a really good conversation because they break down like different sports and how like what is the true definition of like who is the world's strongest man? Is
Mhm.
it that can produce a massive amount of force really quickly? Is it strongmen that lift heavy but with a conditioning element? Is it Olympic weightlifters that move a massive amount of weight really quick? So it's like it's really breaking down like what really is strength, and it's fascinating to see. Tim had a quote that he said to me, and he was like, "I've never heard someone complain that they're too strong."
Mm. Yeah.
And like, how does that happen? Like, what is the right way? And then we get into the discussion of what strength for a specific sport. Like a football athlete is going to need a different type of strength than a golf athlete.
Mhm.
So it then becomes like a what buckets do we fill? Do all buckets need to be filled? Can some have a bit less water in it than others? So like it's this really conversation. And again, I think because we're still fascinated on like, no, I'm right about this one very specific scientific thing that we kind of lose that essence. And again, Mike Stone is very I'm proud about this, but like people have gone away from strength. Like
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
revert to what got us to the dance.
Mhm. And that it's a great subject and it's a great question. And the good thing about the industry, if you ask 20 strength coaches what is strength, you're getting 20 different answers. And I think that's the good thing about, who we are and how we program. And I think you learn a lot about their program if you ask them what strength is. I say strength is king. Like I need to get you strong. Your next question is, what is strong? What is the baseline of strength? How strong do we need to be? Right. And that's all in the eye of the beholder. But or are we getting to a point of, I hate to say being too strong, where it's not being too strong. It's we're just so focused on strength and getting someone stronger. Like I believe all S&C coaches can get somebody stronger, but are you
I
getting
think
them
all
more
systems that
powerful?
yeah.
Can we work on, can we fill in different buckets? Like we can get someone strong. Like we know that. Like have you follow a 4-week program. They're gonna get stronger, right? Progressive overload. All the principles that we learned, like just follow those and you'll get someone stronger. But are we filling in those other buckets that transfer to the sport? Are we working on power, working on speed, any type of change of direction? Like, what are we really focusing on? It can't be all spent on strength, but strength is super, super, super important. That's something that I always tell my interns and fellow strength coaches is like, that's strength is king. You need to be strong first. After we, go through a strength phase or one or two of them, then we can spice it up. Then we can go the power route or the speed route. So just seeing where they're at, seeing that they need to get stronger relative to body weight, but then again, that might not be necessary either.
So I had a great conversation with Curtis Clay. He's another awesome coach that I've got all the time in the world for.
Mhm.
But he's out in Seattle, and I actually got to go to his facility quite a bit when I was across there. And he has a progression on that piece, and it's like, yes, we need strength, and he's a fucking meathead, but he's also very precise with like movement and movement quality. So his thing is like, let's explore different angles of strength. So instead of being linear strength, let's explore like your 45s, your 30s, your 55-degree angles. Like, can we be strong in awkward positions that, again, I always revert back to this example, but like Pat Mahomes, when people look at his off-season training and he's doing like all these back bends and all these
Yeah.
weird fucking movements, but then we match up to the movements that he does on the field and he's able to make those moves because he does that training. So like he's being strong in end range of movements which I think is another area that we need to be talking about. I think I recorded this on an episode, but I had a conversation with Anya and Ivo. They're based out in Switzerland, and her whole thing is like she has gymnastics, she has dancing athletes, which guess what? They're all fucking flexible.
Mhm.
So guess where they have to be strong? At the end ranges. And like it's like speaking to her is super fascinating because the way she breaks that down is like it's not it's the same principles. We'll start on ISOs, then we'll develop from there.
Yeah, I think I was gonna touch upon it when you were saying it, but, like, when Patrick Mahomes play, like, that's how he plays, though. Like, he does awkward throws, and that's what makes him so great. And the coach you're referring to before, like, let's see at these angles. Well, that's what sports played at. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's very hard to mimic. If you know ice hockey, it's very hard to mimic the sport of ice hockey in a weight room. And everything you learn in hockey kinda goes against how your anatomy works, like, you're pushing out, it's almost, your pelvis or your femur's shooting through your hip, you're rounded like this the whole time, like, your anatomy is all screwed up, and then I gotta teach, proper, and their body's already broken, so, but getting them right at those angles, I think is that's something I'm gonna look into definitely of let's train at this specific, joint range that you're going to produce force at. We do some of it with our ISO and things like that, or where we jump from specifically. But yeah, I gotta learn more about that.
So I've broken this down before, but I love this conversation because it doesn't get explored. Like people just think, let's be strong, compact. But like as we start moving out, that's where injuries happen. Like
Yeah.
I dislocated my shoulder playing rugby because I went for a super wide tackle and the guy just ran into my shoulder and that was it. Popped out. But there's an amazing system that I learned from a coach and I've kind of like taken on that plus some of the stuff that I've learned from Anya. And its strength is developed isometrically, then we go eccentrically, then we go like a powerful concentric, then we can go power based, then we can go ballistic plyometric based, right? That's a range that we can kind of all agree on. So it's the same thing for end ranges. I'll see if I can no, it didn't work. Anyways, so let's like let's use the shoulder complex. So if I'm here, like if I'm tackling here, right? This is my weakest point because I'm overstretched. Like my hand's here. So like what's our first step? Let's take this and go ISOs. So we've got like a Swiss ball or a rock or anything, and we're just fucking pushing through it. Hard as we can, 10 seconds. Develop that 15, 20, 30, whatever you want to do. Then we go kind of coming out of isometrics. Like can I hold on and just like start moving from there? So find my end range. I like push through as slow as I can, back slow as I can. I like build it that way. Then we go into our concentrics. Can I fucking move some decent weight through those end ranges?
Mhm.
At the end, I'm going to get a Swiss ball and I'm just doing tantrums, smacking as hard as I can, fast as I can for a period of time. Because another thing about sport, it doesn't happen slow, right? It happens fast. So guess what? We need to train it. We need to train it fast and predictable, right? Because when we
Yeah, or
are
get
for those white tackles, and it's unpredictable. So at the
yeah,
split
or
second, we need to make those decisions. Okay, I'm comfortable there. I've done all the strength work. I'm good. I can make.
Mhm. Yeah, or get there as fast as you can, right? So it's like we gotta get people strong. It can't be microwave. We gotta get them ready to play. Like right now, like June, July, August. It's huge time in the football calendar. I got to make sure these guys are ready to go for the middle of August when preseason camp comes. Like so we got to get to this point fast. So that's why the good thing is all that offseason training starting in January of like the first thing you asked me of how do you make your program is like this is what we're building for. Like, everything's on track right now. We're on the trail. We're good. Now we just got, we gotta take it home now. So, but yeah, you just got to get there, not as fast as you possibly can, but you gotta get there at some point and train there. I like that. I think that's a great way to train that, and especially when you see shoulder injury. That happened to my shoulder in high school. So I was doing all that stuff and training myself to get back out to playing college ball. So that's what really helped me.
I think so because we've spoke about this. You'll understand it a little bit better. This protocol isn't done like as a standalone thing. It's sprinkled into like our tiers. So our trisets, quad sets. There's a main lift and accessory. Then I'll have some core, and the fourth will be protective. So that's the whole way through the program. Like I'm trickling in these mitigation work and the protection work, the
Mhm.
stabilizing muscles, like everything's getting touched throughout these tiers. And I think that's again, it's programming smarter.
Yeah, a lot of schools I've been at that, what I've learned, and I kind of do it with some of my teams. It's like, our last, if it's not like arms or core that we end with, it's a needs tab. Like if you ever heard like that, like, you know, that's why another good reason why it's good to be at a school for a certain amount of time. Like I know if whatever athlete walks in the door of like my athletes, like I know what they need, and what they need to work on. So maybe in that needs tab, you add some more shoulder, you add some more ankle, you add some more mobility. They might need some more of this, more of that. So adding that to that at the end of the workout, I think is great. It might change from person to person too, but if you're speaking just training the sport of rugby, like yeah, you got to have great shoulders and a great upper back and great upper chest and neck area, depending on just based on how you tackle. You see in the sport of American football now with all the shoulder injuries, and that's how we tackle now over here. And head and neck's going down, but shoulder injuries are going up. Why is that? Because that's how we tackle now. So we got to train for that. We got to build up that upper back area.
That's one thing that was fascinating because I got asked what difference was because they're similar sports. Like they both have the same shaped ball and they
Mhm.
both tackle. And I was like, well, it's impact speeds and collision
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
metrics. Because like I'll start by this: the town speed in the towns and villages I live at is 20 miles an hour, and you can do some fucking damage at 20 miles an hour with a car.
Oh yeah.
And then you've got kids who are running 20 miles an hour,
Mhm.
running at each other, fly out like this. It's like there's going to be some fucking damage.
Oh yeah. It's almost a car crash every single play, dang near, And then nowadays, if you watch the pro combine, or the NFL combine, it's 300 pounders running sub 540s. Like that's crazy. That's freakish stuff right there, man. Like that's what you're running into in the NFL. Like that's impressive stuff.
That's legit.
Yeah, no, it is legit. I'm fine staying here and coaching in Westfield. My NFL aspirations are done after I saw that stuff. I'm good. I'm good.
Coach Tucker, I really appreciate you coming in and spending some time with us. If you can sort of let people know where they can find you and, reach out if they've got any questions.
Yeah, so it's been a pleasure, Manny. This has been awesome. Love the conversation. We'll have more in the future, I bet. You can reach out to me, Tucker.Bachand. That is my Instagram. Feel free to DM or reach out, anything like that. Feel free to ask any questions. I don't really put too much strength and conditioning content out there, especially now in the summertime. Maybe something here and there, but I'm always around to ask questions. And I've made kind of strength and conditioning group to communicate with fellow strength coaches across the country. So feel free to reach out. And thanks again, Coach Man.
All good. Appreciate you. Peace.
Have a good one.